Thanks for tuning in once again to our NASCAR coverage prime time. It's our first Friday of the season. I'm your host, Greg DePalma, and we're going to take a look at what happened earlier today at Richmond, practice and qualifying on a Friday for a Saturday night race. All right, what is this? Substack? Yeah, I guess. I don't know what to tell you. Just remove it. Remove Substack. Yeah, we have a Substack account now, by the way. I should start putting that into the links in the description, but we just started that. Matter of fact, I did my first Substack post, which happened to be NASCAR futures. So I put we talked about the futures on Tuesday show, and I highly recommend. Christopher Bell was 9-1 on Tuesday. We also went with Chase Briscoe at 16-1 and Joey Logano at 25-1. And again, that's value. That's all that is this time of year. First time we're letting you know about it. Great value. Take advantage of this right now. And that was our first post. So yeah, we're going to start doing more on Substack because that'll give us an opportunity to put more reports together, written pieces, and so we'll let you know. All right. Anyway, let's talk some Cookout 400 from NASCAR. And why don't we start off with practice? All right, here we go. Now, this is a little weird because the experts indicated that, at least in the past, Richmond for practice is tougher on the early cars. So it was led to believe that the second practice session, you would have an easier time, faster speeds. That did not happen. The exact opposite happened. And so you have to keep that in mind a little bit. Now, the only reason that I'm not going to go crazy with it is because Richmond practice does not matter. As strange as that seems, but that's just a fact. Taking a look at practice winner speeds. Okay. Now this is next gen. 2 started in the top 5 and 1 on the pole. So that's good, right? But 4 started outside the top 10. And 3 started 18th, 19th, not started, this is practice. We're 18th, 19th, and 23rd fastest in practice. So really, if you take a look at that, what's that? It's 12, 35, 38, 48, 58, 57, 67, 77, 75, divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12.5. And then what's interesting about that, so 12.5 is the average practice speed for the winner, ranking for the winner. We want to know what the average qualifying rank is for the 7 next gen, because I only did the 6 because one was rained out. So you want to know what all 7, but that was with practice. I didn't do that with next gen, with qualifying. So next gen, all 7 winners started outside the top 5. Again, something we talked about on Tuesday, started outside the top 5, which is crazy for a short track. Okay. The average starting position for the 7 next gen winners, 12.7. How freaky is that? So 12.7 average start, and for practice average rank 12.5. All right. So something seems to be pointing towards that 12 spot. Not that I would say, go with John Hunter Nemechek. I'm just saying that's why I don't really put too much into practice. So let's go at Richmond. So here is how it looked. Now, Daniel Suarez, though, you have to give him a lot of credit because he went in the second session and ended up the fastest. All right. But again, I just don't know what that means. And then you have Denny Hamlin. You have to go down. See, Denny Hamlin's 6th here. He was 2nd fastest with the 2nd session. And then Josh Berry was 10th, and he was 3rd fastest. So Eric Jones, Cindric, Herbst, Bowman, Reddick, and Keselowski were all top 10 in their own practice session and here. So I'm just not going to worry about it. I'm just not. All right. Here are the rest. Larson, 15th. Byron, 18th. Gibbs, Logano, slow. Briscoe, slow. Blaney, slow. Elliott, really slow. Christopher Bell, 34th. All right. So I really don't put too much into practice at Richmond, obviously. And really there was no manufacturer edges either. If you look at it, Ford had 3 of the top 10, Toyota 4 of the top 8, Chevy 3 of the top 7. I guess Chevy was the best because they had their average was better, and they had the fastest driver, Daniel Suarez. Okay. Why do I have a ringing in my ear? That's weird. Yeah, that needs to go away, hopefully. All right. Now let's go to qualifying. And this is definitely more important. All right. So you have Ryan Blaney again on the pole. He's hot right now. Had a good race last week. So he got his momentum going again. And he is definitely up there now with Denny Hamlin, obviously, but you can't really say that many drivers are more dialed in now than Ryan Blaney. And then you got Briscoe with a good spot. And both Blaney and Briscoe were in the 20s in practice. My long shot pick from Tuesday, Josh Berry, good spot. Gibbs, good contender this week, no doubt. Good spot. And then you have Christopher Bell, that's more like it, in 8th. Keselowski, Logano. Logano was my 2nd pick. We're going to get into that in a little bit. Hamlin, 14th. So he had a good practice run, but again, not really. I mean, 14th is not really great, but again, it's okay for Richmond. This is about the average. So I'm not worried. I actually, if I'm going with Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell, I'm welcoming the odds. And I'm welcoming the fact that I didn't have a fast speed in either session. So the odds would be, because everything's now going to Ryan Blaney, who's never had a good history at Richmond. He's only started recently to get better at Richmond, but Blaney, compared to these other drivers, does not have a great history at Richmond. So really, this works out perfectly for anybody that wanted Hamlin or Bell. And then you see the rest. Eric Jones, that's disappointing because qualifying matters more than practice, and he did not have a good run. Carson Hocevar, that's not a good sign when he doesn't have a good day today. It's usually his specialty is getting off to good starts on the weekend. And, look at Kyle Larson. I mean, what in the world is going on with Kyle Larson? And Tyler Reddick, too. Jeez. Not good. Okay. Where is the qualifying? Just so you statistically want to know what's going on here for today. Ford, 5 of the top 10 plus the pole sitter. Toyota, 4 of the top 8. Chevy, just 1 of the top 10. So even though Chevy was a little bit better in practice, not so good in qualifying. And don't worry too as far as there are no manufacturer edges historically with the next gen at Richmond. So nothing really to go on there. Keep in mind the most similar tracks, the short tracks. Okay, so that's easy. But North Wilkesboro and Martinsville, if you want to even go further there, they're using the same tires as those two tracks. So if you want to look, so you're going to look at the short tracks and then maybe even give a little bit of a bonus to Martinsville and North Wilkesboro. Okay. Where are the picks? These were the picks from Tuesday. So I had the first pick, and I was like back and forth with Hamlin and Bell. It just like that. And it just landed on Bell. So I went with Bell, and CJ just gobbled up Hamlin. Then I went right back to Logano. I had him last week, and it wasn't for the pit road issue. He would have had a top 5, even potentially winning car last week. So he's still looking really good right now. Hey, Briscoe's on a run, so I got no problem with that. CJ's pick, even though he doesn't have a history here. So he's bucking the, history that Briscoe was just nothing here at Richmond. And then there's my long shot Berry, and then CJ goes with Keselowski as his long shot. Let's pop up the top 10 and the odds. So Ryan Blaney is now 3-1 to win the race. My boy. Yeah. So like I said, I think this is really good news for Hamlin and Bell backers, because those odds are now in your favor. Christopher Bell, as you can see there, is now 7-1. So he was 5-1 with Hamlin on Tuesday. Now you get 7-1, and he's starting 8th. I mean, wow, he was slow in practice. Who cares? So great. I get an extra couple of points there for Bell. But yeah, check this out. So Blaney, now he, again, like I said, he's getting better at Richmond. He was 3rd last year, led 39 laps. It's the best finish he's had at Richmond. He's only got 3 top 10s there in the next gen. So he is getting better, but he does not have the history of the others. The other thing about Blaney and why he should have a good day tomorrow night is because he's done really good on the short tracks this year, which has never really been his specialty. I mean, he's been, look, Blaney's a good driver. He's been a good driver in a lot of tracks, but the short tracks have given him the most problem. And this year, 6th Martinsville, 2nd Bristol, 11th North Wilkesboro, and 3rd last week at Iowa. So he has really grown. Now, it just shows you how Blaney has grown now this season into a complete driver. Now, let's see if he can get that win, that short track win at Richmond, but you're getting no value now for Ryan Blaney at 3-1, 0. As far as Briscoe, like I said, this is CJ's second pick. He's never had a top 10 and never led a lap in 9 races, Cup Series races at Richmond. But he's on a run, 6th or better in 5 of his last 6, including a runner-up and a win. He has been pretty solid on the short tracks this year. 5th at Bristol, 3rd at North Wilkesboro, and 6th at Iowa. Josh Berry is, again, this was my long shot play. Why not? He is all of a sudden just really woken up, maybe in the nick of time, too. So I know he's lost his ride already, but still, I don't understand why Josh Berry. Look, I think this is great because I think Josh Berry should have a decent ride next year somewhere. He's a talented driver. He deserves an opportunity. In his last 2 races, he's finished 4th and 7th, and he's an excellent fantasy driver. We're going to get to that in a little bit. Average start, 20th at Richmond, and now he's starting 3rd. His average finish, 8.8. He has gained 45 positions in 4 races, Cup races at Richmond, and now he's starting 3rd. So yes, you are going to lose the positioning, but what you're hoping is now that he's starting 3rd, that's an indication that he's going to be even better now on Saturday night. And if his finishes 8th last year, 14th, 11th, and runner-up in his very first attempt, starting 30th a few years ago. He was 10th at Martinsville and 4th last week. Those were his good finishes on the short tracks this year. And he only has 4 top 10s on the year. Okay. And 2 of them have happened lately. You have lost some of your odds, though. Hopefully you were on with us earlier in the week and you grabbed Berry when I did at 45 to 1. Gibbs. Now, Gibbs is getting decent odds here. He actually was 9 to 1. And really the only thing that we talked about of why we just didn't pick Gibbs, I mean, there's other contenders, obviously, but the reason he won last week, it's just really hard to win back-to-back. And we've seen crazy things happen this year. We've seen back-to-back-to-backs. We've seen back-to-back. So it's happened, and it does happen. It's just not something that happens a lot. And so, and especially for a driver that does not have a lot of cup wins. But as I said the other day, at least you're getting good odds. And even more so now, he's starting 4th. So I don't care what happened in practice. He's on a great run with 5 top 10s, 4 top 5s, and a win in his last 6. And he has been dialed in beautifully on the short tracks. That's why I think he is a good play. Remember last week when we were going through the picks and I said, when we popped up the picks and I said, okay, we can't change the picks from Tuesday, but obviously I can do whatever I want for my own sake to make some wagers on these races on a Saturday or Sunday. And I said, you know what? I had Byron as my second pick last week. And I said, I'm going to replace him with Gibbs. And Gibbs went on and won. So I actually put some money on Gibbs last week at this time. And I feel pretty good about Gibbs as well today, even more so because he's starting 4th. He has 2 wins this year, and they're both on the short tracks. And he's finished 4th or better in all 4 short track races. So again, the only thing that prevents me from just putting all my chips in is he won last week. And he's never led a lap here, just 1 top 10 in 6 appearances. Okay. Byron, look, you know how we feel about Byron at this point. It's sort of like with Larson and Reddick. It's just not happening. And last week was a great indication, which is why I took him off on Saturday night when we did the show. He did not look good on Saturday. He actually finished in the top 10, but where's the momentum from that? I don't see it. Now, maybe starting 5th. Is this going to be a sign that William Byron is going to slowly get something going? And I will say this, because we talked about this a few weeks ago with the futures. Byron's a big number, and he's more than capable of getting hot like other drivers of his stature. So, of course, I am going to keep an eye on Byron. And what I'd like more than anything is to see Byron do it slowly so the odds don't change. So if Byron can maybe the 9th last week and starts 5th, and maybe he can put in another top 10. And if he can do that, then it might not be a bad idea the next couple of weeks to throw some future money on him before it drops. Because I think it was 30 to 1 the last time I saw it, if you haven't already done it. But he has never good at Richmond. All right. So maybe this would be a great sign if he could actually have his second ever. I don't know if he had more than 1 top 10. He only has 1 top 5. I know that in 14 races at Richmond. 1 average start 10th, average finish 14.8. Priest has snuck in there with a good day, but today. But you know what? At least in qualifying, he was on the pole last year, led 60 laps early. And then that was it. He was done, finished 35th. So, I'm not going to be impressed by Priest starting 6th. Bubba, we're going to stick with that trend until he breaks it. And the trend means good week, bad week, good week, bad week. Well, he had a positive week last week from the week prior. What does that say? That says he's not going to have a good week this week. So I'm going to stick with that. You do have to keep in mind that even when you're looking at his record here, he has been better at Richmond lately. This has actually been a good track for Bubba. His last 4 starting position average, 6.25 coming into this race. And here he is 7th. And his last 4 finishes, 28th, 4th, 13th, and 12th. And he led 205 laps during that stretch. So there is a lot that says Bubba should be a good play this week. And he probably should be. But I'm just going to stick with that trend. Yeah, but 16-1, I just don't know if I'm getting any value there anyway. But yeah, there's some good data there for Bubba. And then you got Chris Bell, and again between Bell and Hamlin, we talked up a story about the two guys earlier this week. They have had tremendous. Well, actually, Hamlin especially is just a tremendous resume at Richmond. The only thing I did point out though is Hamlin was 10th last year, and he did not lead a lap. And it was the first time he did not lead a lap at Richmond since 2019. So you do have to, it's like a little, what does that mean? I don't know. Probably nothing. But he is starting 14th. And I don't know. Again, it doesn't matter because you want to know why? He has 2 next-gen wins at Richmond. And what did he start? 13th and 11th. So he's right where he wants to be. For Christopher Bell, he's had a good resume here. Nothing like Hamlin's, of course. A couple top 5s and a runner-up. And he was 21st last year from the 8th position. There it is, 8th again. So maybe I should watch out. Average start 16.6. So it's good that he is now starting 8th. That's a good sign. Average finish 8.7. So he's actually 8 spots better. He's starting 8th. All right. He hasn't really been, he's kind of been up and down in the short tracks this year. 2nd at Iowa, as we know, last week. Top 10 at Martinsville. But Bristol and North Wilkesboro, not good results. But still, Christopher Bell is just a hot driver right now. And look, my advice is, especially depending on how much you guys put down on this, put money on him to win the championship. That's what I would do. Okay. And he was I must foreclose that he was my preseason pick to win the championship. Keselowski and Logano. First, Logano. Again, I think he is now back to, he's really in the best run. It's a very small run, but the best run of the season at this point. Remember, he was 4th in this race last year, starting 38th. He's got 2 wins here, 15 top 5s. And in the next gen, he has also had a good run, including a runner-up. And he's led 225 laps into the next gen, including a dominating 222 laps in the fall race of 2022. I think I said that. No, a lot of 2s. Anyway, he finished 6th in that fall race. So Logano has had a good history here, as his former teammate Brad Keselowski. And again, this is CJ's top long shot play. And Keselowski did not have the good week last week, but a couple top 10s coming in there. He's got a really good history here. Even next gen, he's been solid with an average finish of 11th. And he has gained 45 positions in the 7 next gen races. So he's a real good fantasy option. Okay, let's move on. Here are the top contenders. Yeah, Chase Elliott. You could probably put Chase Elliott with Reddick and Byron and Larson. Oh, wait a second. That's a Hendrick thing, isn't it? It really is. And Bowman's not doing much. So there's something not happening right now in Hendrick's camp. So yeah, I just don't see this as a good time to take Chase Elliott. He's never won at Richmond on top of it, even though he did win at Martinsville this year. Denny Hamlin, meanwhile, again, he 5-1 still, even though he's starting 14th, but that's not a big surprise. Look, 5-1 for Denny Hamlin at Richmond. That is good value. Austin Dillon, believe it or not, was 12-1 on Tuesday, which was crazy, but he has won this race back to back. So you have to give him credit for that. But still, 3 straight. I want even more than 25-1 for 3 straight. I want like 100-1 that he wins 3 straight races at Richmond. And I know he's got one more to go, but still. Ross Chastain, I do think Chastain is a driver to watch. Unfortunately, he did not qualify well, and that is definitely a problem. But I liked the 7th last week. He has shown a little bit of glimpses of getting better. He's gained 31 spots the last 2 races at Richmond, and he's in position at 18th to gain some more. So I think Chastain, look, he's running out of time, no question. But I don't know. I still think a top 10 is not out of the question. I still would bet on that. Chris Buescher has not really been going well. Top 20s is about all you're getting from him lately. And I see no reason, even though he's won this race before, which he did in, when was that? 2023. And he won it from the 26th position, but still it's not going well for Buescher lately. Suarez, winning a second race for Suarez before the playoffs, probably asking too much. He's never had a top 5 here, but he's a real good fantasy play. And check this out. This is funny. Suarez has, you can see, let's see, Suarez is 20th. Well, the last 2 years, he started 21st. And his finishes the last 2 years were 7th and 10th. And he actually led 93 laps a couple years ago. So this is exactly where Suarez, that's his sweet spot. 20th, 21st at Richmond, top 10 finish, maybe lead some laps. And remember, again, even though practice doesn't really mean much at Richmond, he was the fastest in practice on the second session. So I would definitely throw a couple bucks on him. Eric Jones, I want to throw a couple of bucks on. I probably will because he's such a big number, and he did have a pretty fast practice run, and plus he's just desperate for something to go on. The problem is he is just not good at Richmond. If you take a look at his career numbers at Richmond, they are just not very good. 1 top 10 in 16 races, and he's never led a lap. Not good. Hocevar, we talked about him. Yeah, didn't like him before the weekend. No reason to like him after the slow day today. He does have 1 top 10 out of 3 races, but he's only had 1 top 5 in the last 8 on the season. So not the week to take Hocevar. Cindric was pretty fast in practice for what it's worth. He is 33-1, as you can see there. He has 1 top 5 in 8 races, but it was last year. So that's a good sign. He started 13th in that race, though, a lot further up than 23rd. Bowman, look, Bowman, I'm going to mention him, and he's on this list because of his career here. In his last 10 races at Richmond, he's got 5 top 10s, including a runner-up last year, and he won the race in the spring of 2021, the year before Next Gen. So he may not be a bad fantasy option in 25th. There's Larson. What can we say about Kyle Larson at this point that we haven't already said? He does have 2 Richmond wins, just 1 top 5 in the short tracks, though, this year. And if you look, he does have an X-Gen win. Last year, he finished 6th from the 30th position. How about that? That might be a good fantasy option. And also, in the fall of 2024, he finished 7th from the 15th position. So he's actually gained 32 spots the last 2 years. So he hasn't qualified well at Richmond lately, but he still has performed well. The only issue is how he's gone. He's just not the same driver that he was those years, or even the last couple of years. Well, last year, yeah, he probably. Well, then again, yeah, he's not the same driver. SVG starting 31st, and I don't think he's a bad option for fantasy because his starting position, so he can gain some spots there. Last year, he started 27th, so pretty close to 31st, and he ended up in 14th. And he does have an 11th at Martinsville and a 5th at North Wilkesboro. So the short tracks are the better tracks for SVG, as we know. Winning the race, no, but fantasy option, definite possibility. And it is Reddick. Yeah, we've been on this with Reddick for weeks now. Maybe even we're almost going on months now. So for what he is, I mean, it's one thing to get to go from hot to cold. It's another thing to just, wow, what an unbelievable drop for Tyler Reddick. And this is why we say every single year, early in the season, midway through the regular season, we say the same thing. It's early. And you don't want to get too hot too early necessarily. I mean, look at Christopher Bell. He got up to a great start last year. Couldn't even get to the championship 4. It happens every year. There's a real hot driver early in the season, doesn't even get close to winning a championship. And I think Reddick is in that spot. So, okay, let's see. Where are we? Fantasy. So these are my top fantasy bargains here. And if I decide to go with this, which I might, this exact 5, I have enough left over where I can go with whoever I want. So I can decide to take Hamlin or Bell or Blaney or Gibbs. So now you might have a favorite driver, one of those 4. And if you do, then this can give you some options. So you can gobble one of these up, and then you can get, matter of fact, you might not even, you might say, you know what? Let me take, let's see what happens. What do we got? 23. Hamlin. And Bell. How about that? That'd be pretty good, right? So you can take Hamlin and Bell, and then here you have all of these 4 bargains to take advantage of. Now, there are other bargains. Okay. You can go with, make sure I'm done there. You can also go with SVG, 6,400. Okay. I could definitely see him somewhere in the top 15. There's Bowman. And they're both starting way back. And that's probably it for the long shots or the bargains. So I think between Bowman and SVG, those would be the 2, along with Smith, Suarez, Berry, and Keselowski. Now with Smith, he's starting 24th. And last year in this race, he started 29th and finished 11th. So that's exactly what you're looking for. And he is driving a Ford, and Ford had a really good qualifying session. So, yeah, I mean, you could just switch any of these drivers. And if I was going to switch, I'm definitely not switching Berry and Keselowski. You know what's also funny is that this is one of the very few times ever that I can recall seeing only 2 drivers that qualified in the top 10 also practice in the top 10. The average is like 5, 6. Okay. Sometimes, you'll get 7, 8, 9, but you never get 2. And I don't know. It's not even into super speedways or anything like that. Just regular short tracks, tri-ovals, that sort of thing. It's crazy. And it just shows you how nutty the day was the differences between the practice and the qualifying. So it can make it very hard to handicap. But look, we've had 7 races to go on, and we got numbers numbers are the numbers. Now they could easily change tomorrow night, but the numbers say, and look, this would eliminate Blaney, Briscoe, Berry, Gibbs, and Byron from winning. If the trends continue in 7 next-gen races, no driver that started in the top 5 has won at Richmond. Now, I don't really think I just think that's still a little, the only thing I think that's important for is just to let you know that don't get too preoccupied with the drivers that are starting in the top 5, especially someone like maybe Blaney. That's why I was saying it's probably good for other drivers if you like them that Blaney did hit the pole and his odds went all the way to 3-1 and everything went to Blaney. So then you got a break with some of the other odds. That's all that's for, because I'm definitely not taking Ty Gibbs, say, because of that trend. I wouldn't do that. But then the same thing we said, of course, with practice, that, let's see, nobody has a practice ranking of 24th or worse. So whatever that's for. Okay. So going back, those would be so again, like I said, Berry and Keselowski, definitely I'm taking them. And if I stick with Hamlin and Bell and Berry and Keselowski, I mean, I think that's awesome, right? So then I would just decide, okay, do I want Smith, Suarez, and some combination, because I can still fit SVG, Bowman into that mix. Let's see, Smith is 58 though. So actually, if I go and Suarez is 65, yeah, actually, I think the only one, well, I could go with one or the other. I'd have to keep Zane Smith in order to do this. So the one that would have to change is Suarez. And I don't want to change Suarez because I told you, based on what he did the last 2 years at the same spot. And again, first in practice, for what it's worth. So really the wild card here for me would be Zane Smith. But hey, that's why you're in these situations, these bargains. And that's why it's not easy to win these contests, because you're going to have to roll the dice on drivers that are 350-1 to win the race. But this would be my top 6. I get to get Hamlin and Bell in the same one. So I think that's pretty cool. All right. So let's wrap up with, once again, the picks. So I would not change anything. Unlike last week when I swapped Gibbs for Byron, I'm good here. I'm still good with Bell. I feel great that he's 7-1, even better that he's 7-1. And so, yeah. And again, I was able to get Berry at 45-1. And if I would have to add anybody else, it would be Gibbs at 10-1. I like Keselowski's, CJ's Keselowski's play. So I already put money on Keselowski. And let's see if there's anybody else on the outside. I'd say no, nobody else. So that would be it. I think the only one that I would add that you do not see here would be Gibbs. And again, even though we won last week, it's we've seen crazier things happen this year. So I'm not gonna not take him because of that. Okay, so next week, if Christopher Bell does not win this week and he finishes second again, well, you know what's next week? It's Loudon, which just might be his best track. Christopher Bell has 2 wins at Loudon. So if he can't win this week, well, maybe next week we'll do it. And then we get to wrap things up. Wow. Isn't that great? Where am I? Where is the schedule? So I can pop up. I want to see. Because I know we have one more. The Daytona race. That's the other one. That is going to be a night race. So where are we? Oh, this is all screwed up. It's not big enough. Yeah. So let me get the times. That's what I was looking for. So we got Daytona. Here we go. All right. So we have Daytona for the night race to get us into the playoffs, which I just love that idea. So that'll be cool. And then we start, and we do have a night race here at Bristol in my backyard. So that's awesome. And not that Bristol has been Bristol. So that's the one bad part. And then you got a couple of later races at Darlington and Las Vegas is on the West Coast. And that's it. Everything else is a little bit earlier than that. And so we're here, man. That's why if you there's no reason to wait anymore for future wagering, especially start putting some money on championships. You haven't already done that. And because we're getting close enough now, especially where there's not much time that you have to wait. So you're only talking about, what are we in? We're in mid-August, and the championship is the first week in November. So you got a couple months, 2.5 months. That's not bad. So now's a really good time, especially with a few of those drivers. Look, Denny Hamlin's even money to win the championship. That's crazy. This is not F1. And we all know, as much as some of us would like to see Denny Hamlin win a championship before he retires. And I think that's half the reason why his odds are so low. I think there are a lot of people who are just putting money on him because they want to make some money off of rooting for him to win a championship. That's the same reason why you get the same future numbers skewed with popular teams in sports. So that's what's going on with Denny Hamlin right now. But hey, I think that's awesome because I can still get 9-1 on Christopher Bell. And again, Chase Briscoe, who went to the Ford last year, is 16-1, and he is now driving the best that he has all year. Again, it's not about how Tyler Reddick did early in the season. You don't win championships then. You win championships now. This is when you start heating up, going into the playoffs, really dialed in at this point, because if you don't have to time it 5 races before the season ends in the playoffs, win 3 out of 5. You don't have to time it like that. But what you want to do is you want to get hot just before the playoffs. And then once the playoffs start, you get off to that really good start. Because the confidence is one thing. Throw in the fact that you start putting yourself in a position where you've got to lead early enough in the playoffs. So if something happens, you get into some bad luck one race. What is it, Talladega? We have a Talladega race, right? In the playoffs. Yeah, where is it? We have. Yeah, all the way down in October. 3 races before the championship. So that gives you like a mulligan in case something happens in a race like that. Another reason why you're confident. So, and that's what you want. Start getting hot before the playoffs. Then you get off to a great start because you're hot in the playoffs. And then you can be a little bit more cautious while other drivers have to take more chances. And that just puts you in a really good position. So this is the perfect time for these drivers to get hot. And which is why I advised all 3 of those drivers, because they are right now driving at their hottest. So, and I only need one to come through, 1 out of the 3. If I go just with those 3 this week before this race, that will wrap it up. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the participation in the comments section. If you have any questions or anything like that, especially if you want to go ahead and give us your picks for the race, your sleeper, anything like that. And someone else tried to compete with me, and they get the email and somebody wants to go head to head with you in NASCAR. And I said before, I can't go head to head with anybody in a NASCAR contest at DraftKings unless I know that they're part of our audience. And if they are, you got to let me know. And that doesn't mean I'm going to do it. It just means there's a much better chance I'll do it, because I'm not going to do a contest with anybody I don't know who they are. But if I knew that they were a part of this, our group here, then I would consider it. Best of luck, everybody. It's a night race. That's awesome, right? And we'll see how it goes tomorrow night. Richmond is not necessarily one of the most exciting tracks, but we have a little bit of drama last week. Iowa, for all things, we said the other day, could have been a lot worse. We've seen it worse, but there was some things that made things interesting last week at Iowa. So hopefully we'll have that type of race tomorrow night, and let's win as well. So thanks for tuning in. Have a great weekend, everybody. And I'll see everybody along with CJ on Tuesday night or Tuesday afternoon.